Welcome everyone to your MasterBrews Monday, and as usual, we have a special guest lined up. So without further ado, this is Mr. Hashcake, Hashcake.sol, and he is absolutely one of our heroes and villains holders for a long time, since you're the original mint, right? You minted back in October. Yeah. And you also have a very, interesting background in history and some thoughts and opinions. So, Mr. Penguin thought it would be extremely interesting to have you on today, and let's find out if he's right.
I hope I live up to expectation. To be fair, I do television and radio, and I do podcasts in real life, away from NFT life. So.
I knew you'd be polished already, and actually that's you and I have spoken a few times, and that's one of the things that you seem to be doing or trying to do, which is bridging that gap between the NFT space and quote unquote the real world in terms of television and ways that you can use that. So tell us a little bit about some of the ways that you like to use NFTs and how you foresee using them in the near future.
I mean, at the moment, I'm kind of exploring space. I've been into crypto a long time. I like the idea, the freedoms around crypto and the vision of crypto, even though it hasn't quite turned out as expected in the original Bitcoin white paper. But NFTs to me were intriguing because I saw them as visual shares to startup companies or films or plays or environmental projects. I could see it as a great way of the work that I do in real life, finding a way of raising money and building communities to advance what happens in real life. It's not actually working out that way. There's a few projects like Bubble Goose, which is going to mint still, which is really interesting because that is all very much about television, and the people behind it are professional and have a track record. You guys as well, because you're into comics, and it's a really interesting way of storytelling. And I think NFTs work really well, and you're going into games. You've got the Fracture, which is really interesting, which was Soul Gods rebranded. And they have taken their time because they were a PFP. They blew up. They took their time and they became a game. And then you've got Stone Apes Crew, which is really interesting because they are a startup company because they are taking over the legalized weed market in the United States. So I'm now because I pulled into it quite heavily, I'm a weed dealer. Which I love to tell everyone and my agents and everyone, a legalized weed dealer, which is a really expanding industry in the United States. So all of these things to me fascinate me. And of course, you've got things like Bohemia, which are going to be visual art galleries, and the idea that as a curator, that you can take art and artistic curatorial ideas, and you can have them in the virtual space. And you can connect them because I'll be curating an exhibition, hopefully at a major gallery in September 23, which is all around mental health and talking about how it's mainly around HIV and mental health, but I want to change that. We're talking about how abuse, anti-Semitism, racism, homophobia, transphobia, all of these ideas affects the mental health of the individual, which is obvious to so many people who are storytellers like all of us, but in psychiatry it's a new way of thinking, which is just absurd. So there's lots of things where I think we can match NFTs, but we've got to kind of get over this madness of all these projects which are kind of hyped up by individuals. People will jump on them, but they have no substance. Because somebody like me is interested in ideas. I'm not excited by the money, but you need to have money in this space to buy into projects which you find are good. But there's another problem, of course, getting whitelists and grinding for whitelists. The trouble is, for some of us who want to get into projects like Bubble Goose, I want to get into, it's really difficult because that is my aspirations on ideas around the NFT space. But it's really, really, really difficult. And for somebody like me who gets migraines by being in Discord, and literally, I mean, being in Discord, I've been in hospital with a TIA, a minor stroke, triggered by being on the online space. I only came out 2 weeks ago, and I've still got to have an MRI. There's no room. It's a hard world. There's no room for conversation about alternative ways of doing it. So there's activism that needs to be done within the space. But the problem within this space, because we are not doxed quite often, we don't know who we're talking to. So it adds to the unreality of the space, and it makes it really difficult for change. And so there's lots of things I've learned which are really problematic about this whole space too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So on the docs note, we have seen obviously more and more people dox, but at the same time, there's still no real accountability. So many people are offshore. So many people, it doesn't matter because they want their one big hit and they can still run away. So does being doxed really actually matter that much? I feel like it doesn't, and it's kind of overhyped. And, you have several, I mean, obviously we're doxed, and we've been doxed since last year. And we work with a lot of our clients who are doxed, whether it's at least the minimum to us. But again, if there are people who are going to do something shady, most of them don't care. Most of them will not be held accountable. Nobody will chase them. Nobody will send a hit, put a hit out. Nobody will legally be able to do much. So I kind of feel like unless you're, major, let's say someone who runs a crypto exchange, or you're running a really American-based type company, the docs part I think is kind of, irrelevant actually.
I mean, I like the idea where people will do interviews and their docs. They might be covered up a little bit, but at least you can see it's a real person behind a project. It raises trust. I'm talking about it in terms of trust. In the space, I mean, it's the Wild West. You're going to always get people who are going to come in with projects who are just money grabs. I mean, they make $2 or $3 million in a successful project and they run off. And the NFT space, I mean, I'm only in Solana, thinking of Near as well. But the NFT space has the shortest memory ever. So, I mean, you could have major rugging that could happen today, and 3 days later, everyone's forgotten it. And, somebody's gone off with $2, $3 million and they're really happy. God knows where that money goes to and who is collecting this money. This is problematic. But I think in the long term, what's going to happen is going to have a very negative effect on the space if we don't challenge it ourselves, because when regulations do come in, and I do know something about this because there's a major inquiry going on in Britain right now around all of these ideas, and some of the people I'm connected to have spoken at the inquiry, and all of these issues are coming up, and government is probably going to be more stringent than we want. So unless we clean up ourselves and start really having different conversations, we're going to have all sorts of regulatory ideas put onto us. Britain may lead the way on this, and because lots of other countries are scared to do it, but then they may pick up from Britain. That's one of the problems with Brexit. We're like everyone's whore at the moment. And I mean, I've got nothing against sex workers at all, but this is like we're just out there and we'll do anything to become popular. Because if you actually look at Britain and you look at the monitoring online around the world, Britain is kind of one of the number one countries, and then it monitors all sorts of places, and then it sells all that information on around the world. So why wouldn't Britain want to be really stringent in this space to be the first to do it? They don't really care.
Well, and if you look at something like just happened with Do Kwon and Luna and UST, these are things begging for regulatory action. So, every time we have something like that happen, it's just, I guess you could argue either side. On the one hand, it hurts the space. On the other hand, maybe it brings in some needed regulation, even though that R word is, most people aren't a fan of it.
The regulation's going to happen, but the thing is, it's whether we feel who are in the space that we have some say within that about the regulation, or we don't. That's the argument that we should be happening. If we are seen to not be able to regulate ourselves, then it will be enforced onto us, and therefore I feel that we should be challenging it already to ensure
Well,
that.
I have an opinion that's controversial from most people I tell it to, and that is when I buy something in the NFT space, I feel other people have way too many expectations and even a sense of entitlement to what they're getting. Because if I buy a piece of art that I enjoy, whether it's a PFP or not, all I'm expecting to get is that NFT, that piece of art. And it's no different than if I buy a painting from a painter off the street. I don't go back to the painter in a month and say, hey, your value is not higher. You didn't kill yourself. Why is my painting not worth $1 million? That's not a real expectation. And I feel like that is skewed in this space where people expect more than they're actually being offered. So even when regulations come into play, sure, there'll be things like tax implications for the owners and various things. But is it really a crime to basically sell someone something, and because you didn't meet their expectations, to me that's not criminal, and as long as I'm delivering on my promise, that's fine. Now where it might get into play is deceptive marketing, deceptive tactics, which can be construed as fraud. If I tell you I'm selling you on this only because I'm saying, like, for example, we're making a game or we're doing something that we have no legitimate intentions to ever do or try, there you can maybe get into some fraud or some deception. But otherwise, no. Like if you're buying most of these Solana projects, you'll see now they're all eliminating their roadmaps and they're not promising you anything. Everything after mint is purely your own expectations that no one has said you're going to get. So I kind of feel like the space also needs to stop with those type of expectations. And a lot of people do comment that, oh, when things are regulated, like those owners who mint and then take the 2 million and just put it in their pocket and don't do anything for the community after, oh, they're going to be in trouble. And you're like, no, I don't think they are. Unless they're promising things like hardcore, basically buy this and you're going to get this, and then you don't, that's fraud. But otherwise, if I'm selling you something and I'm telling you this is what you're getting, a picture of a bear, you get the picture of a bear. If I want to take all that money and just go live on an island, well, that's my prerogative, right?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And you see, because I only buy by looking at the roadmaps, and if something interests me in what they're going to say, so then there is a kind of contract you have with the developers. And I mean, I've been rugged a few times, but the bigger projects, the good projects, which I mentioned, are the projects which I feel will be around long term. Bearing in mind 99% of everything will disappear. But the thing is, that's not how regulation works. Regulation is not about whether, I buy a JPEG and they may have made promises or not made promises and they run off with the money. It's basically, who are the people running off with the money? This can be organized crime, this can be terrorism, this can be all sorts of things that are going on. So the regulation that will come in will be the same kind of regulation that we have in real space. Because you see, if I wanted to do something which was criminal, this is an easy way of raising lots and lots of money without having to be accountable. So that's why it's problematic, and that's why you're going to have very stringent rules upon this that will be coming in. And that's what worries me, because they will have to be forced to come up with strict rules around this space. So moving forward and looking into the space, maybe as a result of that, some of the better projects, the bigger projects which are really using NFTs, how they can be used will be really interesting. I'll run the AIDS Memorial campaign in Britain. Now we're creating a public artwork in central London. Now we're not very good at creating public art. We've got a great spot right in the centre, and we're creating a new area. So you go to Buckingham Palace, you go to Trafalgar Square, the whole world's heard about these places. You'll go to the AIDS Memorial, what we're creating. So the idea would be, maybe if I can find partners to release an NFT, and you become a virtual owner of shares in a new public art piece in central London. This process has worked in the past when people have been mending piers and bridges or doing new things around the world. But the idea that you're owning a special artwork in central London is exciting. It doesn't mean you're going to get so much out of it, but you made it happen. So, will we move into that kind of space? You will visit the AIDS Memorial. The AIDS Memorial will survive long after we're all dead, but you can say that I made this happen. I facilitated this. But also, because we're connected to politicians, to royalty, to very well-known musicians, artists, and celebrities in the world. So there might be lots of things that might happen. There might be concerts, there might be this sort of thing, that sort of thing, that will be fed into this. So these are the kind of ideas which I thought all originally came into NFTs, that wanted to explore, thinking these could work. So I'm hoping that we would move into this kind of territory where the art world and the virtual art world will connect far more, because when you talk about one-to-one digital art, that's really interesting, because you buy that and you will be buying an art piece, and digital art is huge. I know buyers in London, major buyers, who have funds buying for multi-millionaires, and something like 10 to 20% is now digital art they're asking for. So there's a massive change happening. So I think it's early days. It's exciting. We're going to be excited how it's going to evolve. I also think it's going to reignite the comic industry in a different way, and we could see where that's going to move to. What do you think about that in terms of comics and how the space works?
So some people know, but I actually have been reading comics since I was 3. That's how my parents state I taught myself to read. And I actually managed a comic book store when I was a teenager. So I definitely have a long history in that space and massive fan. Still on a daily basis read them. I've shifted. I've become used to reading digital comics now, as opposed to, I still do get graphic novels and read those in physical copy. But yeah, I think the space still is, it's going to take a while to convince them to do some of the things that can happen. And I know this because we were speaking, to example, with Dark Horse Comics about doing some stuff with heroes and villains. And they are extremely resistant to anything involving NFTs or the space, like a lot of mainstream companies still are. So I feel like comic book companies have always been a little bit behind and a little bit more traditional. So I think there's a lot of potential that can be unlocked. There's a lot of things where more community contributed content and characters and IP rights and a lot of that stuff, there's so much to explore with it. But you need the big guys to actually want to do it, and that's hard. That's like moving mountains. We know people at Marvel and DC, and obviously we work with someone like Mark McKenna who has people he knows, and it's like, even if I look at what Marvel and DC do in the space right now, it's very, very, very limited. DC has done like hero cards. Marvel's done stuff with VV, where it's all very, very basic. They're not doing utility. They're not doing functionalities. They're not advancing anything to do with using the blockchain. All they're really doing is just, small cash grabs here and there based on their branding, which is a shame because there is a lot of potential. And even games, like we've heard that they're very adamantly against building any form of blockchain leveraged games, which is something they should be starting now or already started last year.
I mean, when I was at NFT London, sorry to interrupt, but that's exactly some of the biggest game makers, the most successful game makers spoke at NFT London, and so that anyone who's saying that right now are behind the times. They created some of the biggest games in the 90s and 2000s, and they're saying that they're moving into NFT games now. And so I reckon over the next 2-3 years, it'll be leading the way. And also, we've got Carl Jones now doing Bubble Goose. And, he's done all those animations. He's well known for them. So that's a new step forward. We've got Niels Jules, who is a big, massive movie producer. And at Cannes this year, they were having big discussions about NFTs and movies. So
Mhm.
I think something like this, and I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you, but I feel that sometimes it's going to move forward so quickly. All the major brands are coming up with NFTs. Manchester United's coming up with an NFT. I went to the British Museum the other day. You could buy an NFT in the store. And so I think there's going to be, I mean, even the British government, Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor here, is talking about releasing an NFT. So I think the shift is going to happen so quickly. And I think, well, culture takes it on. Some people will be left behind, like in any big change. Of course, it could all die, but I don't think so. I don't think that is going to be how this ends somehow.
Yeah, I think though it will take them a few years still, because like you said, I mean, again, to these companies, a few years is quick, right? When they work on projects and build things like games that take them 10 years, 2-3 years is nothing. Or working on, even people don't realize when they make animated films. I know Marvel discontinued it because they wanted to just focus on the MCU and the movie verse, but DC still does a lot of animated films, and I think they put out 2 or 3 per year. But each of those takes 5-6 years, right? So people don't realize, well, this movie just came out, but it started like, half a decade ago, and it's just a 90-minute film, right? So it's kind of funny how people perceive time and how long things actually take, and especially in this space where everything is changing day by day. When people ask us, we think we're on a quick pace, for example, with our Heroes and Villains game and our Whelps games. They're 6 months in at this point, and we feel we're accelerating them. We're making, cutting things out of the MVPs that we can add later. But people are still, oh, wow, this takes a long time. We're like, no, a real game of this quality would take like 3 to 5 years typically.
Absolutely. And I do think, you see, part of the problem is that everything needs to be rushed. That's why I really admired the Fracture, who I had met the devs in London. They're British, but they're taking their sweet time to make sure they get it right. And I think that is the kind of confidence we need, but their community is completely behind them. Once you build up a very strong community and you sustain that community, and the community understands what you're doing and they feed into what you're doing, you can keep them on side. So I do think there's models that we should celebrate, again, like Stoned Apes, which is the community is very strong. And what's very important, there has to be room for error and trial and imagination and new visions and going down journeys like we do in creativity. They don't work. Let's pull back. Let's go down another journey to actually be the best project that we possibly can be. Now, I admire those people who are doing that within the space, and there are very, very few who are doing it. And there's no wrong in making mistakes. Some of us who've made films, some of us who've had plays around the world, we've experienced this, and we've been in the industries for a very, very long time. So I suppose it's an individual how we have our own relationship with NFTs. And we make a decision, well, these are our values and these are the sort of people we'll support. I would never have supported Luna. I would never have supported that madness. I didn't believe it. And I felt I didn't like, it was not sustainable if you actually looked into it. And so, something about smart contracts, because that's what we're doing, requires the individual to be smart. We wouldn't act like this in real life. We wouldn't make these investments. So we have to, it would evolve that when we make investments in NFTs, I mean, if we could get in, I mean, I'm trying with Bubble Goose and it's almost impossible. I'd love to. But the thing is, you see, what happens here is, why am I so excited about a project? I'm excited about a project because something inside me, something consciously or unconsciously, attracts me to the project. And that's what Heroes and Villains was about for me. I was really attracted to the ideas. I was attracted to the people around, behind it. I loved what you were creating in comics. I don't need to make a financial gain. I just want to see it evolve and be part of it. And that's enough. That's exciting enough for me. And you're giving me what I wanted. So the returns that we get can be a whole myriad of promises and ideas, but heroes and villains, everything you've ever said you will do, you've done. I don't feel shortchanged. You've given me more than I imagined going into the game and everything like that. That's what I want as somebody who is putting my trust in you.
So that brings up, sorry to interrupt. I know we only have a couple more minutes of your time, which we're appreciative of. That brings up a great segue. I want to make sure we have time for audience participation. So Crypto Bingo asks, I love all these projects I see Hashcake involved with in the space. I find them to be really cool, trippy, funky, and interesting with a real artistic vibe. But, and this is what you were just mentioning, what else attracts Hashcake to a project other than initial artwork? So I think you just touched on that a little bit, but
yeah, I mean, it's very much with the ideas. I'm an ideas person. Stoned Apes, I'm really interested because they're going to conquer the legalized drug weed trade.
Yeah, I was going to say,
this is just exciting for me because I've got no access to it. This is something I don't know. But also, they use game theory within their NFT, which is really exciting. I know they're going to last a long time because they're so innovative and the people around it are great. I mean, I'm also part of a DAO, Baker's DAO, which I recommend people join in a DAO if they can become part of a DAO. It offers you some sort of community within the space and people, you become really strong and closely, you become strong friends with people within a DAO. And then they can look at projects and you can analyze and assess projects together. The PFP is never enough. That's really important. But where are we going to go from here? What are the new ideas? How are we using the space to push the space forward and push boundaries forward? That's why I keep going back to Bubble Goose. The Fracture is going to go into this game. There's lots of ideas around it. It excites us all the time. Cardboard Citizens I've just bought into. Steppen, I love it because I'm walking around getting fit after my stroke, mini stroke, and it forces me out of the house every day and I'm earning $50 a day. These are sort of things that will keep you there because, even if they don't work out, for a moment you experience that joy of being part of it. So if you're going to look at projects, don't just think of the gains you're going to make. Don't fall in for the hype. Don't fall in for the gambling around it. Of course, you've got to flip sometimes to keep some money. But the thing is, you have to think long term. Your long-term projects are your mainstay that you're going to have, and your short-term projects something that just be very realistic about it.
So if I own a stoned ape,
go ahead, Penguin.
I'm sorry, I'm making a joke, but if I own a stoned ape, do I get free weed then, or how does that work?
Well, the thing is, they have a token called Puff, and they have a token called All. So you could go to stores in the United States. I mean, they'll have contacts in Canada as well, and you can buy weed with Puff. And they've got everything. They've got the papers, they've got the rollers, you've got all of the stuff, you've got the boxes, you've got the CBD. I mean, they have parties as well. They had a massive party in Los Angeles recently where you could try out everything. They're going to have a party in July in Amsterdam. So, this is again innovative, new, exciting. But as I said, the Baker's DAO, a lot of people in the Baker's DAO came from Stoned Apes, but they're from everywhere. They're from all the main NFT projects, and that you've got to be invited to be part of this. But find a DAO, become part of that, and then learn about what's happening and learn about the new projects. That's what I suggest to everyone watching this.
So I have a final question for you. If we have time, maybe we'll get 2 final questions. And it's not NFT related, and it's meant in the most complimentary of manners. But do you, as of now, start getting mistaken for Moon Knight on the streets of London?
Moon Knight?
Yeah, have you watched the Marvel Moon Knight series?
No, I better do.
So you have a striking resemblance to the actor. Is it Oscar Isaac?
Oscar Isaac, yeah.
So he's so British, is he?
Yes, he has the same accent. I would go so far as to say, has the same, basically, hair, face, and facial hair that you have.
I probably will fall in love with him. Oscar Isaac. Arrange that marriage with me, please. The thing is, it's interesting because he probably might be Jewish or whatever, but but the thing is, you see, I'm Gujarati, and in New York they call us the Good Jews because we're so similar. And having grown up in Jewish North London, I've got a new play which is about Freddie Mercury, by the way, which is he was Gujarati like me, and my parents and his parents edited the Gujarati newspaper together in Zanzibar. My mother and his mother were great best friends. So that's another idea when we're moving forward, like the Freddie Mercury play, the Indian side of Freddie Mercury could be an NFT. So that's why we entered the space. But Oscar Isaac, I mean, me playing Freddie Mercury would be like the greatest narcissistic experience.
Well, you should look up the series Moon Knight. Obviously, it's comic related. It's a Marvel comic character, right? So that's why
he was also in. He's been in Star Wars. Yeah, he's
he was Apocalypse
exploding.
in X-Men Apocalypse, I believe.
He's taken off. I would say he might be the hottest thing right now.
Oh, it sounds great. Well, I'll watch that. I've got a meeting. I've got a trustee
Absolutely.
meeting. But
thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us.
We deeply appreciate you being on. Unfortunately, I was going to ask you to share one of your funny celebrity anecdotes with our watchers, but we will save that for the future.
I did meet Freddie Mercury when I was very young, and my idol that I absolutely loved, Queen. And then he spoke to me in Gujarati, and I have to say I was terribly, terribly shy, and I was so shocked, that my idol was speaking to me in my mother tongue. But I didn't say anything back. And then years later, I learned that it was my grandmother who was his Gujarati teacher as a kid.
Very cool.
So that I don't think you can beat that anecdote.
No.
No.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
It's called Freddie Bye. Hopefully, it will be out in the next couple of years.
Very nice. I saw a dystopian future Queen play.
Yeah, I mean, it's about Farooq Bulsara, who before he became Freddie Mercury.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very nice.
Okay,
well, we appreciate your time. Yeah, we'll let you hop off. We know you're in a run.
But hopefully you meet again.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again.
We will.
Great.
Thank you
very much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye.
And thank you to everybody who watched today. Really lots of fun talking to Hashcake, one of our earliest supporters. And yeah, he and I have spoken a few times. I love to get his thoughts on everything. And I think there's some good MasterBrews potential there as well. So
yeah, how about, what do you think about Heroes and Villains play on stage?
Right?
You know what I would do for it?
As long as it's better than the Steve Rogers musical.
From Hawkeye, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember? I hope you remember the teaser we had, right? The one that just had the Brewmaster and Creeper in it.
Yeah,
I could see that being a on-stage play because there's only two characters. They're going through the duality of their evolutions, right? What was that one thing that sent them on very different paths?
It's true.
I think we should talk to someone who's a playwright here and
Only
see if we can make it happen. But did you get the Moon? Were you thinking Moon Knight at all?
Not until you said it, and as soon as you said it, I was like, "Oh, absolutely, absolutely." And we have Crypto Bingo who agrees it's actually uncanny. Yeah. It's but Hashcake doesn't waste his time on movies and TV shows. He's got more important plays and things to deal with.
Yes. So while we were on, a lot of the topic of heroes and villains, anything you want to share, Penguin? Any news you have that I don't?
About heroes and villains?
Sure.
You're making me feel like I should have news.
Well, I'm hoping maybe you do. I don't know. I wasn't around much this weekend overall, so maybe you encountered something. We did see the generosity of one of our own. I believe Tilting Shock gave out a demon for free.
Oh, that's right. Or was it a trade?
I think he gave it away.
Well, good for him.
Oh, Crypto Bingo wants news.
Well, we spoke a little bit about heroes and villains yesterday, and in terms of going through some of those ultra rares and the fact that Crypto Bingo just got one, but I think I can probably sneak a sneak peek of what we might talk about on next Heroes and Villains Day, because we
Does it
had
involve the
talked.
Safe Foundation?
It doesn't. Now I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, I am talking about the the intel our informant gave us about what the Safe Foundation is establishing in New York City next month.
No,
You're still laughing.
I'm not picking up what you're putting down.
How about think of a can, not a MasterBrews can.
Okay, so I can do that too. I need to go back and find it now. In the meantime, let me leak, while I'm looking for it, let me leak one of the things I was going to share the next Heroes and Villains Day, and I can leave you to talk about it.
Yeah, because I feel like we normally give people an hour, right? So let's give them an hour. Or at least 45 minutes.
Sure. So we have that guy. I'll let you, if you can just vamp for a minute, I'm going to find the safe stuff that you're talking about.
Yes.
Talk amongst yourself, Ferry.
This is Bad Brain, I suppose. That's the name I'm going to give him. And we all love the fact that his weapon of choice is a knife, like you mentioned last time. So he's started being colored in by Ross. Obviously, Jay was the artist who drew him. Mark did his inking magic, and Ross has started adding colors. This is obviously not the background he's going to have, and there's still some things to come. But this is one of the henchmen that you'll be able to mint in a limited quantity, and he will have dual purpose. He will be able to recruit others. I mean, if this guy came and asked you to join, how could you say no?
Yeah, exactly.
It looks like, maybe his little antennas maybe he's even got some mind control. I don't know what's going on in there.
That'd be cool.
And then obviously in combat, you'll be able to summon him. And I don't think your enemies will survive very well if this guy shows up with his knife.
No, probably not. I think the knife may be a decoy. You're going to be staring at that knife trying to disarm it, and then he hits you with one of those laser hands.
Maybe we just caught him at dinner at the steakhouse. I mean, it looks like a steak knife, right? It has those little circles on the handle.
Yep. All right. And I think, give me a moment here, but I think I have it only took me, 4 different ways for
Let's
you to
hope you find the right image.
Well, I don't know what we're going to see now, but I'm pretty sure it's at least something similar to what we're talking about.
No, not that image. Yes, it is that one, but we have a nicer one, right? The one that shows the can beside it.
Yeah, maybe that one didn't come across my desk.
Let me see if I can paste it to you. Feel free to talk while I find it.
We're so I can talk about that initiative a little bit that we're about to show a picture for. So yeah, we thought it would be really cool. Highly professional show that we run. We thought it would be really cool to play into some of the evolution and energy aspects of the upcoming Heroes and Villains game. And so watchers of the show may remember that we have a Whelp Slipstream energy drink coming to NFT NYC, and the same is true of Heroes and Villains. We have a cool energy drink coming called Evolve X. It's manufactured by the Safe Corporation, and they are ensuring that if you drink that, what is it? You'll never become a mutant, or you'll only become a mutant if you drink that.
I mean, it's supposed to just unlock your human potential. I don't know if I would drink anything made by them because they're a little shady corporation, but obviously you might want to stay away from it if you're a non-human race. We know how they feel about you.
Yeah, exactly. And you might want to stay away from it, in in general. I look at it as a collector's can more than anything else. In my mind, it's got that syrupy energy drink taste, but whatever. I'm drinking an energy drink right now, so now on to talk, I suppose.
I'm
Yeah,
scrolling
so
and I shall have it shortly.
would it be all right if I showed the MasterBrews version of that?
Why not have a party? But show the good one. Don't show that.
Well, I assume this is the good one.
It's got to be the one with the nice actual can.
Yes. So there we are, MasterBrews, smart people, smarter contracts, drink it on ice. Yeah, so we're going to have a lot of fun in NFT NYC. I'm really looking forward to it. Every day I'm like looking at Google Maps. Where's the hotel? Where's the parties happening? How can I walk there? How can I get there? I am really looking forward to it.
No, you're definitely going to get to walk because we're going to assign you to walk around with a cooler around your neck, handing these cans
That's
out.
Right. That's right. I'll be like a little medicine dog back in the day, just carrying cans of energy drinks around my neck.
Well, I hear there's a good crowd lined up usually that are thirsty at the Bored Ape merch shop. So now here's the can, and here's some fun facts about this can. It matches the in-game design of the energy can that you use as energy for campaign mode, for story mode, which you can purchase in the in-game marketplace, and you can earn it sometimes as a reward and whatnot. But that exact can is the same can that's going to be in the game. So a little guerrilla marketing there, a little tie to it. There will be obviously the nutritional info above the QR code, but the QR code is going to take people to a very special lander to push the project to them, basically. Hopefully, open it up to some new folks. And yeah, Evolve X, energy by design. I don't know about that Safe Corporation though, but if we want to, I guess we have to try it, see what happens.
I've got an idea that maybe Communa3 can help us with. We need an actual commercial for Extreme Measures where we see a character drinking the energy drink, and then the person watching or playing the game reaches through his computer and then has the energy drink in hand. And then, let's do it.
Now, what if we gave out like 10,000 of these in Times Square? What do you think could happen? Would we create the zombie apocalypse?
We may create the zombie apocalypse. We'll definitely create the need for public washrooms.
So if anyone, we've mentioned this in our Discord, but if anyone watching is attending NFT New York, make sure you hit us up. We would love to meet you, buy you a drink, give you some Evolve X, whatever it may be. And yeah, if there's enough of you, we'd love to do a little impromptu gathering perhaps. So.
Yeah. By buy you a drink, what we mean is you have to pay us not to give you one of these energy drinks. But other than that, yeah. Crypto, you're a brave man. Actually, to be honest, I don't know why I've gone through this line of joking. I'm really excited to try one as well. So,
I mean, I would love one day that we actually do produce lines of such products and get them into grocery stores and retail. Obviously, there's a lot involved in that. We've explored it on a preliminary level for things like actual master brew beers with like our artists' art on it, and we've explored. I've been looking into hot sauces because I'm a major hot sauce fan. What if we had like Bal's Hellfire, or we had, our different ultra rares on labels for hot sauce, and then eventually lead into other characters, or even Whelp's hot sauce would be fantastic, right? I mean, Dragon's hot sauce sounds like it would go together.
Whelp's Fire.
So there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things we want to explore, and time will allow it at a certain point, but we always want to tie in the holders and NFTs to it, so there's a little bit extra complication sometimes. It's not strictly a marketing vehicle, but I would not be surprised if, I would say maybe next year at some point, we will shift to looking at those things once our core priorities are out of the way, which are obviously the game and obviously, making sure we mint out the rest of Heroes and Villains, move on with our roadmap. Whelps, the game is top priority as well. Then we got the Dwarves drop. So a lot going on. We got End of Days, which does not have an energy drink because they did not drink such things back then.
That's right.
And just because we're a little bit uncertain still when we're going to mint and drop that project, we have a few potentially little pivots coming to the ideas of it, just to kind of revamp it for where the space is at, especially when it comes to the token aspects. So there's a few things going on there. We'll share new updates with everyone, in the very near future. But on that note, we saw the market is slightly rebounding today. Does that get people hopeful?
I want to buy me some Luna 2.0.
All right. Well, you're on your own with that one. But
oh, that's fun. Yeah, well, tomorrow's End of Days day. So who knows what we may talk about.
Yeah, there's just I feel like there's always something we can show people. And, some people that wonder, it is funny seeing some people who have been, gone for a long time. They come in and their first comment is, hey, I haven't seen anything been going on for 6 months.
Yeah.
I'm like, one, I guess you haven't, paid attention. But then number two, is that on us for not spreading that news better? So it's a 50-50 thing.
Yeah, I agree.
But the good news is, yes, we always have plenty of stuff we can share. The hard part is choosing when and what to share. We don't want to, there's certain things that, timing is very important, or we really want to save them as bigger items for when they're needed, when we do launch marketing initiatives, or when we do things like our upcoming, eventual IDOs. There's news we obviously don't want to now because we want to use those for like impact after impact after impact when those phases are going on. So yeah, let's just say we've stored up a lot of ammo and we try to pick the fun ones and things we can give you guys that, aren't going to affect those plans. So
absolutely. Awesome. Well, hopefully that wets everyone's whistle. And we'll have some more news tomorrow. We'll have a very exciting Whelps Wednesday in a couple days. And
I caught your pun, by the way.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
You're a punny guy, Penguin.
Oh, I'm a punny guy. That's right. Excellent. And on that note, I think we should say job well done.
Yes. And I would love to share that my pool is finally fixed.
Oh, it's at a suitable temperature now?
Yeah, I kicked the machine and everything is perfect now.
Good.
So I will finally try it today.
If it craps out again, you just threaten him with this guy, and I'm sure.
I don't know if he's waterproof, so to speak. There might be a few little leaks in there that water can get in.
Yeah. Well, if anyone knows leaks, it's you.
Well, I'm going to go act like a frog in my pool, flip around.
Excellent. All right. Have a good day, everyone. We will speak to you tomorrow.
All right.
Bye.
Goodbye, everyone.